Today is September 23rd, 2025, and welcome to the 454th episode of the So Video Games podcast. Here on the show, I talk about any game at all, including new stuff, old stuff, and anything in between. My name is Brad Galloway. I'm the one-man host of the show, and I'm also the editor of GameCritics.com, a website that uses the full range of review scores from 0 to 10, while also offering full accessibility info on every review we publish. As per usual, going to kick things off with housekeeping here, where I talk about tidbits, news items, industry happenings, basically anything randomly game adjacent that's caught my eye in the last 7 days. And nothing has caught my eye in the last 7 days. What's up, folks? It's been kind of a busy one, circling in to do a podcast here as we do. And yeah, I don't know. Deleting a lot of emails, skipping over a lot of emails. I don't know. Nothing's catching my eye right now. That's no big deal. But there is one bit of housekeeping related to next week's episode 455. Just want to let you all know that we are going to have a special guest next week. It is not Carlos. Carlos is away taking whatever medications he needs to get himself back on track after that raging case of syphilis. Man, just cannot keep it clean. But no. Next week is a very, very special guest who is a personal friend of mine and has been for a number of years. But we met initially because I was a huge fan of his podcast. Next week, we're going to have on Jeremiah Bratton, formerly of the Game Bar podcast, G-A-Y-M-E Bar, who he was on with Jason Toops and Todd Harper, and the three of them. Also, Dia de la Sina was on it kind of towards the end of the run there. And they were all just like hilarious and funny, and I love their show. I think I've listened to every episode they've ever done, and we just kind of became friends after I was, a fan of the show for a while. And it just so happened that Jeremiah ended up moving up near me, just kind of a freak sort of, random occurrence or something like that. And so we became friends, and I have met up with Jason Toops, and he's a great guy. And so we had a picnic one day, and that was really fun, and we all hung out, and the show went away. Everybody's gone in their separate directions, although Jeremiah does live nearby. But I figured since he was here and we're kind of chatting, it would be fun to have him on. He's done, hundreds of episodes of podcasts, and I think he's a good guy, and I just thought it'd be fun to bring somebody else on, have some fresh blood in the mix, and we'll see how that goes. So you can look forward to hearing from Jeremiah next week. Other than that, no major housekeeping things to mention. We're going to get to the main content pretty quick, and it's probably going to be a short show. This is kind of one I'm squeezing in between two larger shows while other life things are happening. Before we get to the main content here, quick heads up on the Patreon. All costs of this podcast are paid out of my pocket. If you love the show, I would invite you to chip in and help me keep it running. If everybody listening would chip in just $1 a month, just one, literally one, every expense would be covered and then some. So if you can afford it, I would appreciate it. And some people could afford it. Therefore, I am appreciating it. I am super, super happy and thankful to a couple of folks. First, major thanks to Saris, brand new listener. Bumped into them on the interwebs somewhere, and they came aboard, started listening to the show, and they say they like it, and I will take them at their word since they are putting their money where their ears is. So Saris, thank you very much. I super, super appreciate it. Literally every dollar counts. I am absolutely serious when I mean that. So thank you very much for your contribution. Thanks for chipping into the Patreon. Also, mega thanks to longtime friend and listener Alex Pegram, who just recently joined at the highest level. That's amazing. I was very surprised to get that email. Very grateful to them both. Alex, you're a hero. Saris, thank you very much for your contribution. Both of you guys are really, really appreciated. And so, here's your shout out. Thanks so much. I'll give you a shout out anytime you wish. And you don't have to be a contributing member to the Patreon to get in touch with me or give me some ideas or request things on the show. I'll take questions, ideas, thoughts, feedback from anyone. But if you do contribute to the Patreon, and we've got a good number of people there, if you do want to contribute, let me know. If you want to ask us a specific question, if you have a specific topic, if you want to reach out, we're not big podcasts here. It's like me, and I'm in my basement, and I'm checking my email. And if anybody wants to reach me, you absolutely can reach me, and I guarantee your messages will get me. whether it's email or Discord or whatever. So, don't be a stranger. Like, this is a small, comfy show. I'm happy to interact with folks, and you, especially the folks who are paying. Like, I feel like, you guys really listen, and you must really enjoy the show a lot, and I want to honor that and respect that. So if you got any questions, thoughts, feedback, ideas, requests, anything, let me know. So once again, huge thanks to both Saris and Alex Pegram. Really, really, really appreciate it so much. All right. Moving on, quick shout out about the YouTube. It's still there, still going strong. youtube.com/@gamecritics.com videos. It's all hand curated stuff. Interviews. We just had a recent interview go up. I forget who it was, but it was a good one. Videos, hand-picked videos. There's no spam. There's no generic ads up there. It's just stuff that people who are at Game Critics like personally, or they write personally. So anything that's on our channel, has been curated and is guaranteed to be quality. What's next? Nothing's next. All right, folks. I'm going to kick off this show with circlebacks, where I circle back to things I've covered in depth on previous episodes. Not going to get into all the details here right now, but these are just quick updates to let you know if my thoughts have changed on anything for better or for worse after spending more time with them. The only circleback I've got this week is Daemon X Machina Titanic Scion. Talked about it last week. I know a number of folks that I am familiar with are playing it. It seems to be a pretty big hit in cult circles, I guess. I feel like this is going to be a cult favorite. I don't see a lot of like bigger places talking about it. I don't see a lot of like, it's not getting a lot of traction, but in the smaller circles, in the dark corners, in the quiet recesses of the internet, I do see people playing it and talking about it, which is great. I think it's pretty cool. I think it's worth definitely a look. I put some more time into it over the last week. I know Carlos is just going gaga over it. And I think it's still really solid. I think it's still really fun. I haven't put as much time into it as I would have wished, just because of life circumstances, but I think it's a good time. Still flying around in my Iron Man style mech suit, picking up different gear, doing extra different kind of like loadouts and stuff. It's all really super solid and good, and flying around the open map is pretty fun. It's just a good time. Not mind blowing. It's not going to like, revamp the genre or anything. It's not going to change how you feel about a person. Not going to improve the human condition, but it's good. It's good stuff. So keep in mind that it is definitely worthy of your time for sure. Like, I like it. It's a thumbs up, definitely. But in the interest of, balanced coverage or whatever, I do have a couple of things that have kind of like crept up over time. I think one of the things that bothers me the most about it is, and it might not bother anybody else, but it bothers me because it's kind of a holdover from Armored Core. I've played basically every Armored Core game that's ever come out in America, and I'm really familiar with that work. And some of the people from the Armored Core team went on to make Daemon X Machina, so I know there's some shared DNA there. But one thing that bugs me, and maybe this is just, too much inside baseball or something, but you can equip up to 4 shoulder weapons, 2 on each shoulder, and you rotate through those. And those are kind of like your quote-unquote main weapons. You can also have back weapons, and I think there's a slot for like a supplemental thing. So there's a couple more slots, but basically, like, you're going to be using most of the time 2 weapons that are bolted to your right. They're not bolted, they float there. They kind of like float there with energy. So 2 weapons on the right shoulder that kind of rotate through, and 2 weapons on the left shoulder. Now that's pretty similar to what Armored Core setup is like. You can have a variety of weapons and place them where you want, and you kind of cycle through them. That's fine. So what is the problem? The problem is that, as far as I can tell, and I've been messing with the settings and stuff, I don't think it's in here, is that when you equip these weapons to your shoulders, they don't just stay on the shoulders where they're at. They can be swapped back and forth between shoulders. Now that might sound like a good thing. For me, it's a bad thing, because what happens is, let's say, for example, on my right arm, I want to have my melee weapon. So I've got like a hammer and a sword. And on my left arm, let's say I've got some guns, I've got an assault rifle, and I've got a sniper rifle. I want to be able to flip between the assault rifle and the sniper rifle if I toggle, like, what is it? It's like left on the D-pad or left. I forget what button it is. It doesn't matter. I want to flip back and forth between those. And then when I'm in a fight, I want to flip back and forth between my hammer and my sword. But that's not how it works. That is how it worked in Armored Core. So like whatever place you bolted a weapon to, it stayed in that on that hard point, and you could flip back and forth between them. So anything on your right shoulder stayed on the right shoulder. Anything on the left shoulder stayed on the left shoulder. The problem here is that you've always got 2 weapons active. So let's say I've got a sword in my right hand and I got my sniper rifle in my left. let's say that I want to go to my sword, but because there's also one other weapon that's not being used, it cycles between all the available weapons. So I might be like, oh shit, I have my sword on, but I need my hammer, and I go to switch, and instead of bringing up the hammer, it brings up the assault rifle. And I'm like, no, the assault rifle is supposed to be on the left hand, and I left it over there. I only want to, or maybe I got the sniper rifle equipped, and then all of a sudden get jumped by some monsters, and I want to flip to my assault rifle real quick and take care of that. But because there's an extra weapon still floating around, instead of going to the assault rifle, it goes to like the sword. And I'm like, no, that's not what I want. These weapons aren't staying where they're supposed to go. Why does it switch like this? I do not like the fact that you can cycle through all of your weapons through any weapon point. That doesn't make sense to me. I do not like it. I wish it would stop. I want them to go to the Armor Core system where you flip back and forth based on which arm you're doing. And that, to me, in my brain, makes a lot of sense. I keep all my melee on one arm, keep all my ranged on another arm, and I can flip back and forth, ranged, or melee, but not ranged, melee. That's too much to flip through, and it's too confusing. So I'm sorry if that was confusing to the listeners. I know it probably doesn't make a lot of sense unless you play these games, Armored Core or Daemon X Machina, but that to me is like oh my god, why would you do that? That's insane. I don't understand why you made that choice. Otherwise, it's still a bit buggy. I ran into some text that was like left in the original Japanese, and it's not often and it's not major, but sometimes I'll be flipping through menus and I'll be like, oh, that's literally just Japanese. That's the thing that needs to be cleaned up. And also, I will say that even after putting some time into it, there's a lot of stuff that I really don't feel very confident about. Specifically like the DNA system of how your character who pilots the mech suit can change aspects of their body. They can have like passive abilities and some active abilities equipped to the person, not the mech suit. You can change your DNA, and sometimes it even changes how you look. Cool idea. I love it, but I don't really understand how the DNA works. It seems like you pick and choose sometimes, but then there's sometimes you got to mix and match, and sometimes you need a certain number, but not another number, and I just don't understand it. Maybe if I spent some time messing around with it, but it also costs money when you want to change things around, which is kind of irritating because I don't want to spend money just trying to figure out how it works. And I feel like the tutorial just really wasn't that great. So that isn't very good. There's another tutorial. I forget what it is, but there's another tutorial where I'm like, okay, I don't understand what's going on with this. And so I'm kind of just like ignoring it. There, you can still play the game and have a lot of fun, but it's like, if I want to play something like this, I really want to dig into the details and get like full mastery of like what's going on and how do I tweak everything and how do I min-max. So, I mean, and again, maybe it's on, maybe I haven't spent enough time with it, but like just from going through the tutorials and kind of just touching down on it, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me in those little things. Something's just not being explained, or maybe I don't understand. So those are things that I think need to be tweaked. But other than that, I think Daemon X Machina Titanic Scion is a really fun game. It feels very different from the first Daemon X Machina, which also I thought was a pretty good game. So this is kind of a cool series that's flying under the radar. I bet a lot of people would be into this if they gave it a shot. But good stuff. Again, it's not going to set your world on fire, but I think it's definitely worth looking into, especially if you liked Anthem, if you like Iron Man, if you like the idea of flying around an open world in a mech suit. I mean, it's got a lot to offer. And especially if you like anime stuff, it's got a pretty hard anime, Japanese culture sort of vibe to it. So if you like that, this seems like something you should check out. Definitely a thumbs up there. Daemon X Machina Titanic Scion. And before I go on, I should mention, looking over my script right here, that everything I'm talking about on today's show, including Daemon X Machina, was provided to me free of charge by either the developers or the publishers. So just full disclosure, I did not pay for any of the games I'm talking about today. I got them free, and just know that it will not affect what I think about a game. Boy, does it not, because I have handed out more than a few harsh, scathing reviews in my time. I have given very low Metacritic scores. I have been very blunt and direct with my feedback to the point of, alienating people and losing friends. So trust me when I say that getting a free game does not change my opinion even one bit. But there you go. So there's that. Daemon X Machina, Titanic Scion. That's the only circle back I have this week. Let's get on to the new stuff after this break from our commercial sponsors. Just kidding. There's no commercial sponsors. I just needed to take a sip of Red Bull. That's all. It was just a joke. Plus, I wanted to say that. All right, let's get into the games this week. Let's start it off with Ritual of Raven, playing this on the Switch. This is a pretty interesting one. I think Not perfect, but really pretty interesting. It is a, I don't know, where do I start? You play a person who ends up falling through a dimensional warp, and you're in a land of magic that is strange and new to you. Game is a 2D game. Set up on the Switch, kind of like it's not really pixely. I don't know. It's kind of like a hand drawn, kind of cutesy art style. Kind of cartoony. It's fine. It looks good. Not my favorite, but I think it gets the job done. I don't hate it. I think it looks cute enough. What happens is you meet a witch right off the bat, and she's like, "Hey, I know you're not from this world, and so you don't know about magic. Let me teach you like 3 things, and then I'm gonna bounce." And she disappears. But this world looks like it's gonna be kind of like a cozy Harvest Moon situation. Actually, super not really what I mean, kind of what it is, but not really what it is. Because what happens is the twist to Ritual of Raven is that in this world, magic comes from plants, seeds, sprouts, saplings, fully grown plants, fruit, whatever, anything like that. But the hook to it is you can't touch it, not until it's ready to be harvested. So if you touch any of these things before they're ready, you ruin them. Like the magic goes away, it doesn't work, the whole thing fails. So you can't touch anything that you're growing. Well, what do? You, of course, build robots. What else would you do? That's the only thing that makes sense in this world. You build magical robots. Not joking even remotely. So you get into the game, and what happens is you can plant a little patch of ground. There's various patches all over the place. They start you off with one, but you can do it, basically anywhere there's like a flat piece of ground with no grass on it, and there's patches. You have a little robot. The ones I've gotten so far are kind of shaped like jars or urns, but they have little arms and legs and stuff. And so you need to have the robot do all of your farming for you. And so this isn't really a cozy Harvest Moon-like. It's kind of like a cozy programming game, really basic and simplified, where you are entering the movements and the actions of all your robots in a step-by-step sequential process that is structured to be a little bit like a deck of cards. It's not a deck builder. There's no randomness to it. I just say that because they simply look like cards. That's all. It looks like cards. You're not doing anything otherwise that would make it, be card-like. So what happens is you get your robot. You're like, yo, man, I need you to till this soil. And I need you to do it in a 6x6 square. And so you go to your menu, and there's various cards. Some are movement cards, some are action cards, a variety of cards. And each card has like one action. So like it'll be like walk forward 1 step. And you can choose which direction. Walk forward. And then I want you to dig. And then you put like dig. And then I want you to walk forward 1 more step. And you put that card down. And then I want you to dig 1 more. And then you do that. And you do that until you get enough instructions to have the robot do a 6x6 patch of land. And then you push go. And then the robot will go do that thing. And if you program it correctly, it'll walk, dig, walk, dig, walk, dig, walk, dig until it does the whole square. And then it sits down and it's done. So it's really like a logical, very step-by-step basic, here to get the robot to do everything for you. Once you do that part and you harvest whatever it is you need to harvest, you can take that back to town, sell it, or, people will give you side quests like, oh, I need like 6 daisies. Can you please grow these daisies? Or, oh, I need an oak sapling. Will you please plant this oak? And when it's a sapling, will you please get this for me? And, so everything you do kind of revolves around using the robots to grow stuff for you. So pretty cool idea. I like the idea a lot. I think it looks cute enough. I cannot say that I've ever done... No, I guess I have done robot farming before. I have. But not in this exact way. Not to this level of detail where you're programming every motion of the robot and stuff like that. So I think it's cool, interesting. It's magical. It's robot-y. It's cute. It's warm. But there are some issues with it. I think, first off, I do not think the tutorials are sufficient. I got stuck a couple times, and I'm like, I just don't understand what the game is telling me. I don't quite know what they want me to do. Some of it was okay, but like when it got into some of the more complicated things, or at least complicated for the section of the game that I'm in, I started feeling like, okay, I'm falling behind here. I don't quite understand little things like for example, you can do a move where you tell a robot to do an entire patch the same way. So instead of doing square by square, you can be like, okay, bro, here's like a 12 by 12 field. I want you to do the same thing on every square in the field, like harvest everything in this field. And you can do that, but the interface was really wonky. Like they showed it to me and I did it the first time and I'm like, okay, I think I get that. And when I went to go do it for real, I'm like, wait, it's not looking like what I thought it was going to look like. It's not happening what I thought. And I just got stuck. And there's this other part where you have to like, oh gosh, I don't even remember what it was. It was something like you had to like give a qualifier to a type of tile. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Point being, it ends up being a little more complicated than you think it's going to be. And I think it's still pretty simple, but I just don't think the tutorials are there. I got really confused about how to do certain things. And the controls are not really intuitive. You've got like a control to where you can like look back and forth between your cards and the ground. You've got to move the cards one by one. I bet it feels probably a lot better with a mouse, but it still works with the Switch. And then you're stacking some cards on top of each other, which was fine at first, but then it got kind of wonky. And I guess I just don't really quite know where I fell off. But like at one point, I just kind of got frustrated. I'm like, okay, I know what I want to do, and I just don't understand how to do it, like in terms of like what buttons to push or how to go about doing this. And that was a little bit disappointing. I will say also, I really do not like the map in this game. Maps seem to be kind of a sore point with me lately, and I just really do not like the map here. I think it's hard to tell where you are, and in relation to where you are in the small sense, in relation to the larger map. So like, it'll zoom in on a town area, and you can kind of see where you're at, and that's fine. But then you don't know where the larger map is. Like, do I need to go north to get to this other section of the map? Am I west? Like, I'm not really sure. So I think the way that the maps connect to each other is not good. And I felt like I was getting kind of confused and turned around in that sense. So still cool, really interesting, but kind of some rough edges there that I feel like a little bit more playtesting or maybe improvements on the UI or something might have taken care of. I think there's definitely the core of something good here. And I did enjoy when things worked. Like when it all came together and I saw my robot like trundling off to go harvest daisies in a field, and it all happened and he got his little bundle of daisies at the end. I'm like, okay, that was really fun. That was cool. I dig it. But I just ended up with so many little like rough edges and friction points that kind of took away from the fun that I eventually bounced off of it, which is kind of a bummer because I was digging it. But I don't know. I think it just needs a little bit more polish and a little bit more smoothing. As I always say, maybe in 6 months, if they patch it, might be a better experience. But so far, it's definitely interesting. If you don't mind rolling up your sleeves and kind of like maybe looking a couple things up on YouTube or something, I think it might be a pretty good time. For me, it required a little bit more effort on my part than I was looking to put into it, especially since I play my Switch like usually before bedtime. At that time, I want to just chill. So I don't really want to be frustrated with, I forgot how to tell the robot to do the whole field, or I don't understand how to get him to do these 2 actions or whatever. It just was like maybe just not the best fit for me. But I think there's the seed of something here. I think there is, and I think if anything I said sounds good to you, probably worth you checking it out. So there you go. That is Ritual of Raven, playing it on the Switch. All right, next up is Frostpunk 2. This one kind of snuck up on me. I know it came out on PC a while ago, but the console release is now here. Playing it on the PlayStation 5. And full disclosure, the first Frostpunk, probably one of my favorite game experiences of all time. Like if I had to pick like top 10 games of all time, pretty good chance Frostpunk would be on that. I had like a pretty phenomenal experience with it, playing it on, I think it was Xbox that I played it on. Oh man, loved it so much. Brilliant stuff. Could not get enough of it. I've talked about it several times here on the show, so I'm not going to get into Frostpunk 1 here, but I'm very familiar with it. Played it, finished the campaign, finished every little bit of the DLC, and some of that DLC was balls hard. But did all that stuff, just ended up really just loving it a lot. So Frostpunk, great experience, great game, pretty brilliant stuff, loved it. So Frostpunk 2, basically the same thing in terms of presentation. You got like a God's eye view. You're looking top down into like a frozen wasteland kind of a situation. If you're not familiar with Frostpunk or the first game, basically the world hit an ecological collapse and the whole world was turning into like an ice age, snowy, cold, white death ball type situation. And so the last remaining humans go to the North Pole for some reason, and they bring these giant like engines and machines and the big generator that they plant inside the ground, and the generator has this ability to generate heat for like an entire city. And so you build a city around the generator. While you fix it, you got to build it, put it together, keep it running. You got to source materials, fuel, manage people to build it. And then stuff will happen as you go through the game. Like you'll get messages from the people and you have to manage those folks and everything. And eventually, you know, if you win the game, then you build a generator and you survive. That's like the gist of Frostpunk number 1. Frostpunk number 2 picks up where Frostpunk number 1 left off. But I think it's like, I want to say it's like 50 years later or 25 years later. They start the game basically with the premise that, yes, you did achieve the generator in Frostpunk 1. And since that time, we have been like living here. We built a city. And people have gotten, I don't know if comfortable is the right word, but, you know, they've kind of settled in and it's not so much about survival to survival every minute. So we have a few minutes to relax and they've become kind of this like city where there's like more city like problems. So that's where you kind of start off where you are still dealing with the cold and finding fuel and supplies, like still doing all of that. But there's also more of like a clash between different factions in your city. Some people are like traditionalists and some people are like, you know, they are more the religious people, or there's other people who like whatever. There's a bunch of different factions that you can talk to and they have different, usually opposite goals as to what you're working towards. Like if you pick one particular way to build something, somebody else will be pissed off about it. If you pick that second way, then the first guy's pissed off. Kind of goes back and forth, right? So like I'm sure anybody can get the gist of this pretty quickly. Game starts off with a tutorial, and I gotta say, honestly, I don't think the tutorial was very good. I feel like I'm saying that a lot these days, but I feel like it was a little bit confusing in some ways, and I say this as a Frostpunk vet. I haven't played it for a couple years, but, you know, it's still pretty fresh in my mind, and I think the changes are just like, whatever, it's fine in the tutorial, but some of the stuff that happens in the main game wasn't exactly like it was in the tutorial, so I think it gives you a bit of a false start. Once you get to the main game and all the systems like, you know, start to unfold and stuff, it's basically just like Frostpunk number 1, but like certain things are different. In this particular case, they handle heat differently. Every building that you build already has like a built-in heater, and some of the stuff that you would have to build in Frostpunk number 1, they're just like, nah, we're going to skip all that. Everybody's got that already. Like in the first game, you'd have to build some laws, and that would tell people to work overtime. In this game, they already have overtime active as an option. They've already got the heaters for each location. They've already got they've taken some shortcuts to get rid of certain things from the first game. Now, is that better, more expedient, more streamlined? I mean, I guess maybe, but I feel like it also kind of took something away for me anyway, because the feeling of like doing each specific step really gave me ownership of like building the city and knowing what laws were available and knowing what technology I had available. It definitely jumps it forward a little bit, and I don't know that I cared for it that much. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. Like, for example, I don't know whether I feel good or bad about this, but you know, in the original Frostpunk, you could you built heaters all over the city, and there was like a circle of heat that would be around each heater, so you'd have to kind of strategically place the heaters, or maybe build your housing in a specific way so that you would maximize the exposure to the generators or the heat. In this game, you can kind of build wherever, and since each plot or each building has a heater already, you don't really have to build in the same way, which, I mean, that's cool. I don't want to just do Frostpunk again, because I could just go back and play the original games like a masterpiece. But at the same time, it does give it a different feel, and it feels like it really shifts emphasis away from survival and more towards just kind of like management, which I guess makes sense, right? It's 25 years later, 50 years later, whatever. You're not moment to moment surviving, but it does give the game a different flavor. And it did make me feel slightly more disconnected from what I was building. I felt like it'd be a little bit more, I was less invested, less careful about where I was putting things. So maybe that would turn around and bite me in the butt later on. Maybe it wouldn't, who knows? Beyond that, just a lot of the same kind of management. And I feel like the experience is not really significantly different other than like dealing with people more often, but it just felt like less immediate, less gripping. I will also say that one of the design choices, I found it harder anyway to kind of visually parse what was going on. When you look at the map, you've got like 5 or 6 or 7 different overlays to look at different things. There's lots of stuff going on the screen, and I feel like, for my brain anyway, maybe it's because I spent so much time with the first Frostpunk, but I was just like, I wasn't getting a good, clear sense of like how much I need in terms of resources, or like what is important, what's relevant going on. I felt like overall the game had a different presentation that was like too subdued and too minimal, and it was hard for me to like visually parse out certain items. I'll give you an example. So in the first game, you would build buildings, and between them you would like build a road, and you would very clearly see the road on the ground, and you would know which buildings were connected where and who was going where and what, and that was all fine. In Frostpunk 2, you build something well, okay, so first, like, you're on this, like, I don't know, icy tundra. You have to frost break. And so you have to like break the ground so that you can build on it. That's fine, but maybe it's just my eyes, but like I can barely tell the difference between frost broken ground and regular icy ground. It did not seem clear to me, and I was messing with the settings a little bit and it just didn't seem clear. You can see it when you pause the game, or like when you go into one of the overlays, it's more apparent then. But like as you're just looking at the map in general, it's very hard to tell where those frost broken pieces of ground are. And maybe it doesn't matter because you don't have the road system the same way that you did, but it just felt like harder to tell. Also, I will say that this is the first game ever that I have chosen quality over performance when it came to like which setting the graphics were going to run at, because I noticed that when I would put it on performance, like little details were missing. Like the people walking around, which I really liked seeing in the first Frostpunk, were not there. Some of the little details were just like, it looked like not enough was happening, and I'm like, what's going on? Like I feel like there's animation missing or something. It doesn't seem like a bustling city. I don't see the people going from the town out, like, walking through the snow to get to the place where I want them to work and walking back. And maybe it doesn't matter, but it kind of just made me feel like less interested, like less connected to these people. And so I had to stop, and then I went back to the menu, turned on quality instead of performance, and it did change things. I did notice more details. And so I left it running on quality because it's not really like an action-y Twitch game. But that was kind of weird. Like this, it did make a difference to me. I'll also say like other elements, like whenever someone wants to talk to you on the map in the original game, the whole game would stop and your attention would be directed to where something happened. Some generator blew up, a guy fell in a hole, people are rioting, like whatever happened, the game would stop and you would be like, yo, here's this thing over here. Go check it out real quick. And you could choose to or not, but at least you like knew without a doubt it was there. In this one, I feel like, something will come up, some issue will come up, but like it's like a little icon and it's like a real mellow color. It's not really in your face and it's really easy to overlook. And there's a couple times when I was like, you know, looking around and there's maybe like a really subtle audio cue, but maybe if I wasn't paying attention or I didn't hear it, I'd be like, oh, there's a thing over here. Oh shit, I didn't realize this. Oh, how long has this been here? How long have these people been striking? How long have these people been injured? I didn't realize this was here. Like it doesn't catch your attention enough. Kind of the same thing with, how you regulate the speed. You can pause the game, normal speed, double speed, triple speed. If, you know, maybe you want to build a building and you don't want to watch it in real time because it takes too long, you jump it up to triple speed and it builds faster and you come back to normal speed or whatever. They have like the arrow on the screen, like, you know, like a VCR button or VCR, Jesus, what am I dating myself here? Like on your remote control, when you want to play something you've downloaded, the little triangle arrow, it's so faint. Like it's like there's this little outline in the background. And I was constantly thinking, wait, what speed am I on? Am I on double speed? Am I stopped? What's going on? It was really hard to tell because everything was like so subtle. And I'm like, I don't know why all these visual cues are so subtle. I mean, I'm just looking at a snowy landscape. I would much rather have some of these things called out like very clearly. Some of the displays to look a little bit different. I think just the visual style wasn't really clicking with me. And a few times I was just like, what's going on? Like, where's this thing that I'm looking for? Or what's, you know, like, I don't know. I guess I just don't like the visual approach. It just it's not clicking with me as much. It doesn't seem as immediate and as clear or as gripping. It kind of just feels like everything's kind of like washed out and in the background. So between being kind of like vaguely dissatisfied with the visual presentation and a lot of it feeling like just kind of the same as Frostpunk #1, but just, you know, slightly more complicated, you know, more factors, more menus, or more choices. It doesn't really feel like the game itself is really that different. And to be fair, the first Frostpunk is a fucking masterpiece. Like, I don't know how you improve on that. And according to Frostpunk 2, I mean, maybe you don't. Like, it just feels slightly different, but not necessarily in a way that is as compelling as the first one. That fight for survival, trying to build a generator, like having those little things happen to your people, that was all like really gripping and just so in your face, and like you just had to respond to these things, and like the sense of tension was crazy. I mean, definitely like you have timeline and tension and that stuff is here, but it just feels like, I don't know, kind of just more of the same, but like slightly different. And it just doesn't feel like it's really keeping my attention. I don't feel anywhere near as compelled. I mean, like I said earlier, Frostpunk 1, played the whole game, played every bit of the DLC, rinsed the whole thing. This one, I'm like, okay, well, you know, I got into it and I played some, and I put it down and I kind of forgot about it. And then I came back, I'm like, oh shit, I forgot to play Frostpunk 2. That's right. Came back to it and I'm like, okay, I mean, it's fine. Although, to be perfectly frank, to be perfectly honest, if someone was like, yo, Brad, I heard you have played Frostpunk 1 and 2, which one would you recommend? Like, probably 2, right? I don't think so. I really honestly don't think so. I think if I was going to recommend either of them, I think I would recommend Frostpunk 1. It just feels like it's more concise. It's more clear. I think the visual presentation is better. I think everything feels more immediate and more gripping. Maybe it's like slightly less polished in some ways. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I think Frostpunk 1, pretty bulletproof experience. And I just don't feel like Frostpunk 2 really brings all that much to the table. Probably will not end up finishing this one. I'm glad it's here. I mean, I'm glad that 11-bit had the studio had enough success with it. I mean, it's, they're doing good stuff over there. They did the altars this year, which I also enjoyed. So, you know, I wish them well for sure, but I think that maybe Frostpunk 2 is just not for me. And I've always got my memories of the first one, which is pretty incredible experience. So I guess if you just want more Frostpunk, then obviously go for this. But if you got to choose one, I think go for the first one. I think the first one just feels like a better package altogether. And I don't think I'll be rolling credits here. So there you go. Frostpunk 2, playing it on the PS5. And it works fine on PS5, by the way. I had no problems with like controlling it or like, you know, the way that the menus broke down. I mean, I know this is a mouse created game, but it works just fine on the controller. So don't worry about the controls. I don't think it's a case where PC feels 10,000 times better than the controller. I think the controller works fine. 11-bit did a great job on porting the controls. So don't let that dissuade you. That's not a factor. I think just the game itself didn't quite light me on fire, but the controls definitely felt like they were just fine for console. So that's not a problem. But there you go. Frostpunk 2. All right, next up is a kind of a last-minute addition to the roster here, Metal Eden. This is a sci-fi, futuristic, kind of nihilistic first-person shooter where you play I guess you don't know what you are at first. It looks like you're an android of some sort, and you're going through a situation which I'll explain in a second. Not my usual fare. I don't play a lot of FPS games, not generally my jam, although I do play them once in a while if there's a hook. The reason this came across my attention is that I put it out to the crew, the Game Critics staff, as I normally do. We get lots of PR requests for coverage, and I can't cover everything myself, and a lot of stuff just doesn't appeal to me. So I send them out to the people that write at Game Critics. I think at this point we've got about maybe like 40 people on the list, give or take. Of course, some people are way more active than others. Some people just write once in a while. Some people write once in a blue moon. Some people write every week. I mean, it just really kind of varies. But we've got about, 40-ish people. And between that number of people and me, we can basically get a lot of stuff covered. Pretty diverse taste. Anyway, I sent out the list, and on the list was Metal Eden. And out of nowhere, a good friend, brother from another mother, former co-host of the show, Corey Motley, popped up and he's like, yo, I want to cover Metal Eden. And I'm like, what? I haven't heard from you in ages, bro. I mean, I'm glad you're out there still kicking, but like, what's so exciting about this game? Like, I haven't heard from you literally like in like at least a year or something like that. And you haven't reviewed anything for quite some time. And he's like, oh, well, this is from the people who did, I think it was Ruiner, I believe, which was kind of a top-down, action-y, nihilistic sort of thing. Cyberpunky vibes from a couple years back. He's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure these are the Ruiner people, and I really liked that one a lot, and I wanted to see what they're doing next. I think this is their next game, and just, I don't know, just want to check it out. And I'm like, okay, well, if it's good enough to get Corey Motley out of retirement, I should probably take a look at it. And PR had plenty of codes, and so I'm like, all right, cool. Why don't you shoot me one too? We'll check it out. There will be an official full review from Corey in case anybody wants to see his breakdown. That's coming. It's in the works right now, but I figured I'll give it a shot for the show. So you play a I guess you're an android. There's a kind of a story set up saying that humanity has finally transcended their physicality by embedding their psyche into these little disks or hard drives, I guess. And so they send those hard drives out to the stars, and then when they get there, they fabricate these artificial bodies using the hard drives, and that's, I guess, the new form of humanity. They do this, and of course something goes horribly wrong, because why wouldn't it? And you're on some kind of alien planet where humanity is trying to colonize, and everybody there is like one of these cyborg type people, and you are awakening after things have already gone wrong. There seems to be, and I don't think this is kind of a spoiler. I mean, if you realize this, like in the first 2 seconds of gameplay, there's like an AI that is employing you, and it seems to be really cracked. Like the way that it comes off, the voice acting of it, it talks in your ear constantly. Like as you're playing through the game, it's like narrating. It's telling you about itself. It's telling you about the planet, which honestly is kind of cool. I mean, I think that's totally fine. I know some people really object to having voiceovers all the time, and it really depends. I'm not always for it, but I think it works in this situation because it's a pretty empty world. It's basically you and enemies. There's no NPCs or anything. And so this AI is whispering like crazy stuff in your ear all the time. And it kind of goes from there. So basically it's sending you in to go do something, to recover something or to fix something that the AI cannot do itself. And it's interesting because it has a little bit of like an Aeon Flux vibe to it. If you remember Aeon Flux from a million years ago, in that you are being sent in, and in the very first mission you fail. Again, not really spoilers. This happens like in 5 minutes. And then you realize, oh, I'm actually not this one person or android. I'm actually like a series. And so like whenever, I mean, you seem to be kind of disposable, but the AI like reboots you and puts you back out there. So it's got this kind of really interesting sci-fi vibe where you are like this operative working for this, I'm assuming, mad AI. And then you just keep getting sent out over and over. And at one point they show you, like, I'm pretty sure it's like your own dead body from a previous run, and you salvage some weaponry from it or something like that. And so it's like, you know, you, the player, are being sent in on these like expendable missions where you're probably not going to return, which is kind of a cool idea, cool vibe. So I think it starts out well. I like the concept of it. I like, you know, just the general sci-fi aspect of it. So that's good. That was pretty neat. And I will say that Metal Eden starts off really strong. Once you get into the game, it goes first person. You are third person in cutscenes, but then you go first person in the action, and you've got like like assault rifle with rechargeable bullets. You can jump, double jump with a little jetpack that goes good for bursts. You can dodge, and then you can yank out the hard drive from any enemy, well, almost enemy that you come across. Some of them have shielding, but like otherwise you can yank out these hard drives, and if you throw it back, it explodes, because what else would a human personality do if it was embedded in a hard drive? Of course it would explode. Or you can like ingest it and power yourself up for like 5 seconds. And if you punch somebody when you are powered up like that, it's like a super powered mega punch. And if there's anybody with armor nearby, you'll punch all the armor off them. Or if it's like a regular enemy, you'll just like blow them up in one hit, like super powered punches. So that's how it starts. And I'm like, okay, cool. But the really cool thing is just like the physicality of the game. It's really fast. It's not like Doom 90s retro shooter fast, but it's pretty fast. And you're aiming and you're jumping and double jumping and running around, and there's grappling points that like whisk you through the levels, and there's jump pads that kind of shoot you around the levels, and it all feels very like kinetic and acrobatic and speedy and light, which is pretty cool. You meet a bunch of robots. The robots are pretty just nondescript, like they're just robot enemies, nothing really like super notable. So you kind of blast your way through a couple levels, and the AI is talking in your ear. It's kind of filling you in on the story, and you realize that every mission is kind of probably like a suicide mission, but you're going to try again afterwards because you can be resurrected, which is kind of cool. And so it all starts off like really, really fun and exciting and interesting. But before too long, you start to see like the limitations of what was created here. And it's a little bit disappointing because I feel like there's a lot of potential in this game. I feel like it could be something actually quite cool. So in the time that I spent with it, did not finish it. I got a couple levels in, and I'm like, okay, so the story isn't really developing that much. I wish there was more of a back and forth with your character. I think the whole time I watched and played the game, I think my character only said like maybe 1 or 2 lines, something like that, like really minimal, right? And the AI is talking mostly, but you know, you don't get to ask it questions. You're not really, finding out. You're not interrogating it. You don't have any choices during the dialogue, which I think is a missed opportunity. You get to the power up area. You earn some currency by shooting guys or whatever. You get to the power up store, and it's pretty straightforward. I mean, it's nothing really like mind blowing. It's nothing that's going to really change the way you play. It's like, gun does more damage. Your explosive when you throw the hard drive is like bigger blast. Your gun cools down quicker. I mean, it's all just like, okay, like, cool to have, but nothing really different. So what you get from the start is going to be pretty much what you have for most of the game, unless there's more stuff that I haven't seen later on, which is very possible. But according to the upgrade tree, there's not really much in store there. At one point, you get a Samus-like ball transformation, which, to be perfectly honest, feels really superfluous. I'm not really sure why it's there. You have different weaponry when you're a ball. You can do like this really, really strong electric shock, and you can boost around on the ground and fit through small spaces, but that's kind of about it. I was kind of struggling to see why they did that, other than they're paying homage to Samus, or Samus as the case may be. And so that felt a little bit like, this doesn't really need to be here. So that kind of like made me cock my head a little bit and wonder about that. But really, it goes fine for a while. Like, it's fast. You get through the levels. Like, it feels like the adrenaline's going. That's all good. But then before too long, it just kind of like, it feels like it runs out of ideas too fast. Like, you end up going to these little kill rooms where you're going through a level, you're knocking guys out, you're making progress, and then you get to like a kill room where you can't leave until you kill everybody. And then you just do that like a lot, where wave after wave after wave of dude will come in, and you're just like shooting and jumping and, boosting around and grappling hooking and doing all this sort of stuff. But you're just basically just doing these like kill everybody in a room levels, which after you do a couple of them, you're like, okay, like I'm kind of good on these. And they do get kind of irritating. There's these towers that show up that snipe you from a distance, and you can't destroy them. You just have to keep deactivating them by shooting them, which is annoying. And then guys get shielding, and then you got some flying guys, and it just is like, it just starts to get kind of obnoxious. And so after I did a couple of hallway followed by kill room, followed by hallway, followed by kill room, I'm like, okay, there could be more interesting things happening here, and maybe there is later on, but I was like me more platform challenges, or let's have an interesting dialogue with this AI, or maybe let's have a racing level where you use the ball in some meaningful way, or let's have some different power-ups where I can significantly build my character in a slightly different way. Maybe like one is more melee focused, maybe one is more range focused, or whatever. It just feels like the start of a game that's going to be really cool in like a year. Like, they've got the mechanics down. It feels good to play. The aerial acrobatic aspect of it feels pretty good to play. But it just feels like it runs out of gas too soon. Like, it feels like before you know it, you've seen all the tricks, and then you're kind of just repeating. Now, maybe that's not true. Again, I didn't finish the game, but in the part that I saw, I did start to feel like, okay, I'm getting tired of this. I wish there was more to it. I want to do something different than hallway and kill room, and it just didn't present that to me. So maybe I didn't play enough. Maybe there's something cool up ahead, but based on what I saw, it feels like it gets old a little bit too fast. So I would really, really encourage the developers to keep going. What you've got here is a really great core of something. I think the vibe is really cool. The concept is really cool. I mean, I think you could make the character into something really cool. It just feels like the variety of gameplay is kind of lacking. And for me anyway, just running around and shooting stuff rapidly at a high pace is good in bursts, and it's like a good start, but you need more of that, especially these days when the bar for game creation is just raised so high. I feel like you really got to bring your A game if you want to stand out from the crowd. And I feel like Metal Eden did a good half step towards it, but didn't quite get there all the way. So I noped out after a good chunk of playing. I played it for like, I think 2 days, and I feel like, okay, this feels pretty good. I've got the measure of it, but I've seen enough. So hopefully they will continue. Maybe they'll add to it. Maybe they'll tweak it, or just do a sequel that builds on it. It's a great start, and I would really want them to go further. But as it is, I think it doesn't quite get there. But pretty cool for what it was. So there you go. Metal Eden. All right, last game of the show. And in this particular case, I did save the best for last. This one came, and I didn't really hear any buzz about it. I didn't hear anybody talking about it. But I did kind of put it on my radar a little bit. Couple reasons. Number one, I'm not the world's biggest Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan, although I would call myself a fan. I mean, I've seen a bunch of episodes of the show. I've seen most of the movies. I've got a couple of the figures. I'm a child of the 80s, and so, TMNT is something that, even if it's not my favorite franchise, definitely something that I am warm and friendly to. Beyond that, y'all know that I love my turn-based tactics. I mean, that's one of my favorite genres, and so I try to check out any new release in that vein. And so when I heard about TMNT Tactical Takedown, Turtles plus Tactics, I mean, it felt like I kind of had to check it out. So PR was kind enough to send over a code. This is from Strange Scaffold, and they are some of the hardest working people in the biz. They seem to put out like a new game every 2 weeks. And that is a bit of an exaggeration, but I swear to God, every time I turn around, there's something new from those folks. Matter of fact, I am covering this game from Strange Scaffold, and I also have another one of their games in my to check out pile as well. I got two PR codes. I believe the other one is Scary Redneck Mansion Dinosaurs or something like that. So I'm not even kidding. Like, they put out games pretty often, like shockingly often. And I have played a number of their games in the past, not all of them, but I played more than a couple. I think I've played, I don't even remember the titles. Like, one of them is like Dog in an Interstellar Airport or something, and the other one was like Space Organ Warlord, or I'm sorry, I can't even. I mean, I kind of vaguely remember them. I don't remember exactly the titles, but they've had a bunch of other ones as well. And even though not every game clicks with me, and I don't think I've even finished one of their games, I will say that there's always something interesting about their games. They are trying things. They are throwing so much pasta on so many walls and seeing what sticks. And they are just cranking things out, rapid iteration. And I love that energy, man. Even though none of their games are for me really, or yet anyway, I just love that they're out there doing their thing, and I'm always interested in seeing what they're doing next. It's really fascinating, and you just don't get a lot of that like super gonzo, just going for it energy. And I respect the fuck out of that. I love it. So, lucky for me, I think this is probably my favorite game that they've put out so far. I mean, probably because it plays to a lot of my interests, but also just because it's really good. And much like their other offerings, they are really trying something new. So, TMNT Tactical Takedown. What we have here is, I don't know in which timeline or which series this is supposed to take place. I'm not that super familiar with like the various Turtle series and timelines. I mean, I'm most familiar with the 80s, the original, but there's been a bunch since then, at least 3 or 4 like reboots and reimaginings and stuff like that. So I don't know where exactly this takes place, but you begin the game with Michelangelo, the orange turtle, and he is all by himself, and he's battling the Evil Foot Clan, who are the perennial bad guys in the series. It's seen from like a 3/4 overhead perspective, and the game is portrayed as though everybody in the game is like a little action figure or like a chess piece. There is animation of a sort. I mean, there is animation, but like when you do a move with these characters, they just kind of like go from frame to frame. So like Michelangelo will be standing still, and then you hit an attack, and it just goes straight into like his attack pose, where he's like leaning forward with his nunchucks. And then if you do an ollie on his skateboard, you hit that, and he'll move, like the piece will move across the board, and he'll automatically be in like the radical, I'm on my board and I'm doing a kickflip or whatever move, right? So like there's different poses and there's action happening, but not like, it's not smooth traditional game animation as you might be imagining it, which I think is fine. I'm totally open to different modes of presentation, and I think it's cute enough, it works well. Same goes for the enemies. And so it almost looks like you're playing with action figures or chess pieces on a board, and every area is divided up into squares, and it's all turn-based. But there's a lot of like really interesting spins here, and I think that Strange Scaffold has really taken a hot minute to think about what is the turn-based tactics, what makes it what it is, what can we change while keeping it turn-based tactics, what can we modify, what can we speed up, what can we slim down. It's basically everything about this genre has been touched in some way, and a lot of it is like really good touch, which is great, and it feels less creepy to say that. So yeah, okay, a lot of good changes. Let's get into it. I think one of the biggest and earliest things to talk about is how they present the levels. Like, even though they are like square based, and at first glance they look like any other turn-based tactics field, they've clearly taken a lot of influence and direction from the old arcade. I don't even know what year it was, like it must have been early 90s. If you have been to an arcade, if you know what an arcade is, if you've seen an arcade cabinet, I'm imagining there's probably people who have not had the arcade experience these days. But back in the days, it must have been the early 90s, because I feel like that's when I would have been going to an arcade near my house. I used to cut class at my high school and walk down to the mall, and the mall had an arcade like right as you walked in the doors. So you could easily get in there without the guy watching you, because he didn't really pay a lot of attention. The guy who was like running the arcade, right? He'd be in the back, like watching TV or just whatever, because it was pretty slow during the day. And so you could just like, keep an eye out when he's looking the other way, you duck in, and it's dark in there and he's not really super paying attention. And you could just get in there and play a bunch of games. And, if he caught you during school hours, maybe he would kick you out, or maybe he'd look the other way, or I kind of depended on like what he felt like that day. But I would often leave school early and go down, and they would have a bunch of arcade cabinets. And one of them that was down there was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4-player arcade cabinet. It had a wider part where you had the control sticks, had 4 control stick setups, a wide screen, and then each player could be one of the turtles. And then you could all play at the same time. And then, you go like a traditional side-scrolling quarter-munching beat-em-up back then. So you start left side of the screen, you walk to the right, beat up a bunch of goons, then the thing flashes and tells you to move on, and you move forward. They really emulate that in this game, and I think it's so clever and just so neat. There's no time element, really, but like there's often, you get to a map, and then sometimes you just beat up a guy that's there and move on, and what happens is you'll see a little part of the screen glow green. So you're looking at a map of the area you're in. It's like a square divided up into smaller squares. And there's empty space all around you. One of the interesting things is that they leverage the empty space to where if one of the turtles knocks an enemy into the empty space, it's an instant kill. They just fall off the map and they die, which is kind of fun. But as you are on these little maps killing guys, at some point you'll see like a green section glow. And that means that's where the level is going to produce more ground for you to stand on. You're going to be going over there in a minute, probably the next turn. And part of the level that you're standing on already is going to turn red. And that's their way of saying this part's going to disappear. You better get off this before the end of the next turn, because you need to get moving on. So they kind of simulate how it felt back in the day in the arcade to be kept moving left to right, beat up a bunch of guys, move on, beat up a bunch of guys, move on. That's really the structure of all those beat 'em ups back then. Final Fight. There was like an Avengers one. There's an X-Men one. There's the Simpsons one. I mean, there's like a lot of those that are really famous from back in the day. And so it feels very much like they're taking cues from the arcade. And I think it's so cool and so neat. I think it really works. It's very fun and interesting. Other than that, a lot of the moves that each turtle has incorporates like motion, or there's lots of things incorporated that keep things from getting static. You're not just like staring at a board as if it was like a very, frozen chessboard and nothing's really happening. Like, yeah, it is turn-based. Like there's not really a time element, even with the levels appearing and disappearing. Like you still control that by passing turns, but it feels dynamic. And the way the turtles animate, it feels also very dynamic, because you have all your action points ready at the start of a turn. And depending on how quickly you push the buttons, you can like go through all your turns really fast. And it kind of makes it look like the turtle's moving in real time. So if you just like attack, Michelangelo will do like attack in that same pace. And it looks like he's like actually fighting, which again kind of simulates the beat 'em up, which is really cool. Like it's a really neat way to implement the turn-based system of like most turn-based strategies. Usually it's slow. We saw a huge jump forward with the original, reboot of XCOM, where they started adding like cutscenes and like a little bit more motion. That gave it more dynamism. And I think this is also a different kind of dynamism. I'm not sure that it would work for every single game, but it works here for sure. And you're always thinking about where you're positioned. Positioning is really key in this game. A lot of the moves have positional elements, like maybe you're going to knock a guy off, or maybe you're going to knock a guy 2 squares back. So you want to aim for the edge of the level. Sometimes, like Michelangelo, he can ollie over somebody, and if he ollies over them, he whaps them in the head with his skateboard on the way over. So if you jump over someone, you stun the guy that you just jumped over. There's like certain elements, like Leonardo has a blade, like an air blast, where he swipes his sword like super fast and a wave comes out, but he can't do it close. He's got to do it far enough away to like build up enough momentum for the blast to work. Donatello can use his bow staff. He can like hit people in a row, so you're constantly trying to line him up with people that in a way that you don't do with the other turtles. And I think overall, each turtle has a really good feel to them. They all feel significantly different. One of my favorite aspects of the design is Leonardo. I mean, full disclosure, he's always been, I don't know if he's been my favorite turtle, but he might be my favorite turtle. But he gets a sword, as you all know, his katana swords. And whenever he kills somebody with a sword, he gets like a bonus power up to attack. So what happens is, whereas some other turtles might be, Michelangelo might be ollieing and jumping, Donatello might be, throwing a tech grenade or maybe trying to line up his staff. Leonardo like kind of wades into it with his swords, and as long as you get that first guy down, he buffs up, and then you kind of just like turn into like this, blade chopper where you're just mowing through guys that are around you, and it gives them a very different feel than the other turtles. All the turtles feel pretty distinct from each other, which I think is great. I really like that a lot. As you go on, you have to really learn the movesets really well, because the developers do give you some pretty stiff challenges that sometimes can seem impossible, but that after you think there's no way you can beat it, you got to think about it and think, okay, so what element of this level am I not using? Am I not using the edge? Am I not leveraging my turtle specific abilities well enough? Is there some kind of trick to this? Do I, for example, in one area, I got really overwhelmed when I was Donatello, and I'm like, oh my God, there's like a bajillion dudes here. What am I supposed to do? And then I'm like, oh, that's right. He's got like a grenade that I can throw, and if I do that, it stuns all these guys for a bunch of damage. Then he can come in afterwards and clean up if I line them up correctly. Okay, strategic layer achieved. Same thing for Leonardo. Like, you got to find the weakest guy first, pick him off, he powers up, and then you like chop through the rest. That totally works. And then Michelangelo can move around the map really quickly and knock guys off the edge. That really works really well. So you kind of develop a feel for each guy's different moves, and you can, on top of that, it's really cool because you can mix and match. There is extra moves you can buy, and then you can swap those out for moves you already have. Now there's a limit. You can't just have like 50 different moves for each turtle, but like each one has, I want to say a total of five moves at any one time, and you can mix and match those. So maybe, for example, maybe you're not using Leonardo's move where he kills a guy and then it gives him the ability to dodge the next attack. Maybe you're like, yeah, it's cool, but like I don't use it that much. You can swap it out for one where he eats a piece of pizza instead. So, maybe the life regain is more useful to you than dodging for whatever reason. Or maybe, there's a bonus attack you guys can get, and maybe the stock bonus attack isn't working for you that well. So maybe you want to switch it up with somebody else's bonus attack. You can mix and match, unlock new moves, and kind of customize them to meet your play style. It's not like mega deep, but I really appreciate that it's there. I think that works really well. I think overall it's really, really entertaining. Oh, I forgot to say also, you do get 3 lives, which is also another callback to the arcade, where if you do end up going down because you get overwhelmed or you make a big mistake, tactical mistake or something, you just like drop out and a new character drops in. It's your same character. Like Leonardo goes out, as if you had put in a quarter, a new Leonardo drops in, and you just keep going. You get like, I think, stock of 3, and I believe there's some ways you can increase your life count or something like that. But again, reinforcing the marriage of the arcade experience. And it's a pretty classic arcade cabinet. If you are at all a fan of the arcades or study arcades, I'm sure you've heard of it. You might have seen it. I think they re-released it at some point. But pretty seminal side scroller, so it makes a lot of sense to draw from it. And marrying that to turn-based tactics, which in general has a problem with being kind of stodgy and, lacking a little inspiration these days. I haven't seen a lot of inspiration, but there are people like Strange Scaffold who are trying to change it up, and I really appreciate that. So I think it's just a brilliant marriage of these two elements. I think it works really well together. And I think it just like is so dynamic and exciting, even though it's traditionally a more staid turn-based style. Pretty brilliant reimagining. I think there's a lot of potential going on here. Like it a lot. Big fan. I'm definitely going to try to finish this one for sure. As far as criticisms go, not a lot. I think I'm about halfway through the game right now, and I think that some levels go on for a little bit too long. It's not terrible. I'm doing maybe 1 or 2 levels a day, so I'm not doing epic sessions. But I do feel like a couple levels could be a little bit shorter, a little punchier. That would be good. I think sometimes certain elements can be highlighted a little bit more. Sometimes I'm in a level and I don't realize that I need to kill X amount of guys, or maybe I'm trying to kill one specific guy. They do highlight it in the tutorial, but I think when you're actually in the thick of things and you're kind of playing, it's easy to lose track of that. There's been a couple times when I'm like, oh my God, I'm working so hard to kill these guys. And then the level's over when I don't expect it to be over because I've killed the requisite number. And I'm like, oh, I forgot I was killing 8 guys or something, or whatever the specific checkpoint is for a particular level. That could be highlighted a little bit more. Maybe something would flash on the screen. Hey, survive the wave, kill 8 guys, or, just as a quick reminder. I think more UI elements popping up, kind of like they did in the arcade. There was a lot of communication happening back then. So I think that would be good. The only other criticism I've got so far is that there hasn't been any boss fights. And I mean, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles has an incredible rogues gallery of characters. Tons of guys from, I mean, obviously Shredder and Krang, whether he's a brain or a big bionic suit. You've got Bebop and Rocksteady, the famous, sidekicks. There's Baxter Stockman. Baxter Stockman is here, but he is a different version of Baxter Stockman. Also the same. I'm not sure which timeline we're in, but I think they mentioned that Shredder was dead and this was his daughter, so maybe Shredder's not going to show up, which is fine. But just no boss fights yet, which is a little bit disappointing because it really seems like there's a lot of characters to draw from. And I will say, I don't know that this is the case. I'm guessing, but I'm really, really hoping that at least once before the game is over, we're going to get all 4 turtles together on the same map. So far, to the halfway point that I'm at, it's been 1 turtle per level. So it's just 1. They're all playing solo. And I mean, as everybody knows, they are the world's most fearsome fighting team. So it feels a little strange to have them be solo for so long. I mean, the game kind of explains it away narratively by saying they're kind of on the outs with each other. They're going through an awkward time. Something's happened and they're kind of mad at each other and they kind of go in their separate ways. And so in the story of the game, they're trying to get back together and, protect the city while they're doing it, which is fine. I don't mind that at all. And I think it's probably wiser to start the game off like that. But I really want to see all 4 turtles together in one map. And even though that probably would mean that you were super, super OP, because all the turtles are pretty tough, that would just be fucking fun. And I'm a little bit nervous that we're going to play solo turtles all the way to rolling credits. I'm fingers crossed that that's not going to happen, but we'll see. I don't know. And I have not looked ahead. I haven't spoiled myself. So we'll see what happens there. Other than that, I think this is a pretty fantastic game. I mean, it's not like AAA shiny production values. I mean, it's a little rough, a little janky here and there. A couple, areas could use some polish or whatever, but it doesn't matter because I think the ideas are absolutely fresh and super interesting, and there's a lot of creativity on display, and it's a really great use of the IP. I think this implementation is really fun. I like it quite a bit, so I'm looking forward to playing some more and rolling credits. And if you like turn-based tactics, this one is absolutely worth checking out just to kind of see how different it feels. It feels like it's obviously turn-based tactics, but it's something else. It's something new. And to me, that's really, really valuable. And having the turtles along with it is also just a big plus. Turtles are cool. So there you go. That is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tactical Takedown. It's just really great stuff. Give it a shot. All right, folks. Game portion of the show is now officially done. But like many humans, I do spend a few minutes a week in front of screens that don't have menus or life bars. That's right. It is time for the TV and movie roundup. First, quick shout out to Surreal Estate Season 3. This is a Canadian sci-fi show about a real estate company where they also battle the supernatural. Lots of haunted houses on this show and ghosts and spirit. And they kind of solve problems and bring peace to people who are trying to buy homes that none of us could probably afford. Fun show. Tim Rozon, I believe, is the lead actor who was from Winona Earp. And that was a great show. So he's the lead here. They got a great cast. I like them all. It's a fun show. Season 3, good stuff. They have one overarching story. It's been great. Only 1 episode left. Definite thumbs up. I like that one a lot. We watched a couple movies. We watched Howl. This is a set in Britain anyway. I don't know if it's actually British, but it's about a train, late night train running. They break down in the middle of a forest, and there are let's just say werewolves in the forest. The trailer makes it really look like there's werewolves in the forest. That's not exactly what's going on, but it's pretty cool. It's fun ride. It's pretty straightforward, but I think they do some good beats. They have some okay characters, and just kind of the curiosity to see what's going on kind of drives the whole movie. I think it ends really strongly too. I thought that was good. So Howl, definitely a good one. And it's not exactly what you expect, but I think that's fine. Just watched The Name of the Rose from 1986, starring Sean Connery and Christian Slater as 2 monks who go to investigate deaths in 16th century Italy. I wouldn't blame you if you haven't heard of this one. It was based on a novel of the same name, The Name of the Rose, by Italian author Umberto Eco. It was a sensational smash hit book when it came out, which is really weird because Umberto Eco is kind of like an Italian. I don't know what his main genre is. He's kind of like philosophy, kind of big ideas. I don't know what else he does, but this is the one that put him on the map for me anyway. And you wouldn't think that investigating deaths at a monastery might be that exciting, but it's I'm not going to say it's like a roller coaster of a movie. I mean, it's a little bit slow in parts. Watching it now, last time I seen it's probably 20, 30 years ago. I think it could be edited a little stronger. I think some of the chuff could be cut out. I think there's also, heads up, there's an edited and an unedited version, and we watched it on Amazon. I believe it was free on Amazon Prime. And they should have the edited version where they cut out the movie's single sex scene. I remember seeing it back in the day, and I was surprised because when it's not there and they cut to the next scene, it doesn't make any sense about what happened. You're like, what happened? What's going on? So there is an edited version. If you want to see the unedited, just make sure you figure out which one you're watching first. But I think it's interesting. They bring up a lot of good ideas that I think are relevant today about belief and belief in truth, and how much does truth matter in the face of belief, and what role does religion play alongside law. There's talking, there's philosophizing, and the people are really dirty and ugly in that movie. It's not for everybody, but I liked it back in the day. I still liked it now, even though I think it's a little bit slow, but still kind of interesting. Beyond that, we just watched Fantastic Four. This one was interesting. I think Marvel is getting their groove back. I know they fell into a pretty big slump for a while. They were trying to get the next big thing going after the Infinity Gauntlet wrapped up, which was great, genuinely great, but they just kind of wanted to repeat immediately, and that was a really bad mistake. I think they've realized their mistake, and they are now doing different things. I just talked about Thunderbolts a couple of months ago. Thunderbolts was great, really funny, great character work. Yeah, a superhero movie, but it had a lot of heart, and I think it had some really interesting things going on in it. Same thing here with Fantastic Four. It's not the traditional Marvel formula. I think they're moving away from that. I think that's great. I think everybody in the film was good. It had battles, and there was sci-fi stuff, of course, and all that, but it gave a very different view, very different approach to the material, and it did not feel like your typical Marvel movie. I know some people were like, oh, this is not what I expected. I mean, that's actually a good thing, because literally everybody in the world was complaining about how over Marvel was. And I mean, props to them for shifting gears. They, have this giant Titanic of a movie making machine rolling. They realized they made a couple duds in a row, and they're like, oh, time to course correct. And they have. I've really been happy with their movies lately. I think this one was great. And I think Thunderbolts was great. I'm not sure what else has been recently, but this new style of Marvel movie is cool. I really wanted them to get back to the characters, get back to the storytelling, get back to smaller stories, and I think that they achieve that. Even though there is definitely cosmic stuff going on in Fantastic Four, it doesn't feel necessarily like the previous Marvel films. So definite thumbs up on that. I think it's probably going to do it for me right now. Anything else? No, I think that's about it. And yeah, that's a show, folks. Before the closing music, we'd love for you to leave reviews, share the show on social media, but most important of all, please recommend it to your friends, because nothing beats good old word of mouth. As always, we'd love to get your questions and comments. Hit me up directly at sovideogamespodcast@gmail.com, or reach me on social media on Instagram or Blue Sky, It's my name, BRADGALLAWAY, all A's, no O's. You can also get me in the Soviet Games Discord, which is totally free of charge. Just hit me up through any of the channels I just mentioned, and you're welcome to join to continue the conversation. And finally, once again, thanks to the people who came aboard to support the show this week. Speaking of which, huge shout out to Saris and Alex Pegram for supporting. And if you would like to join those illustrious ranks and support the show, you can do that. I would love some help with the cost of running the podcast, and also the cost of running GameCritics.com. You can do that over at patreon.com/the Soviet Games Podcast. Every single dollar helps, and €1 helps that much more. And this is going to do it for episode 454. Thank you again for joining me here on the Soviet Games Podcast, and I'll see you next week, and you can look forward to guest star Jeremiah Bratton. See you then.